meeting for July 12th, 2021 of the Ortonville Village Council. It is 7:01 and we will begin. Call this meeting to order. Thank you. We would like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. If we could have Trustee George please lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Yeah, very good. Which way? All right. We will begin our call to order, please. Douglas, absent. George,
Yes, here.
Green,
Here.
Nigel,
Here.
Randazzo, absent with notice. Hayden,
Present.
Bryce, here. Thank you very much. We are looking for a motion to approve this evening's agenda, please.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support. Thank you. We have a motion to approve the agenda as presented and a support. Do we have any other questions, comments, additions at this time? John, please. George,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Nigel,
Yes.
Bryce? Yes. Thank you. That motion carries 5-0. Next up is the approval of the council minutes. This evening we have the minutes of June 28th, 2021. Looking for a motion on those?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the June 28th, 2021 Village Council.
Or is that as presented?
As presented.
I'm just making sure.
We haven't discussed it.
Well, you have to. All right, so we have a motion to approve the minutes of 28th, June 28th as presented. Do we have any questions, comments?
I did notice at one spot that there was a double and. It says and.
A double what, ma'am?
There was and
Oh,
in 1 point in minutes. And I don't have that.
So as a grammatical, is that something that you can get to John and we can still go ahead?
Yeah, I can do that.
Anything else that we've noticed? Are we good? All right, and John, if you don't mind, everybody? Green,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Nigel,
yes.
George,
Yes.
Bryce? Yes. Thank you, that motion carries 5-0. Next up is item number 6, and that is our public comments. At this time, it is on agenda items only, please. If you have a comment on anything that you would like to share with us on the agenda or a question for us at any time on that, please go ahead and speak. You have 3 minutes, and you can go ahead if there's anything you can. All right, hearing none at this time, we will continue to item number 7, which is our consent agenda. And in our consent agenda this evening, we have the Streets Committee minutes from June 23rd, 2021. We also have this verification of the special event permit from the Ortonville Lions Club Service.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Trustee George, support.
We have a motion on the table by Trustee Green, supported by Trustee George. Do we have any questions, comments at this time? John, please. Hayden,
Yes.
Nigel,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Bryce, yes. And that motion carries 5-0. Thank you. All right. Item number 8 will be the new business. We're going to go first with part 1. We welcome Brian Coburn this evening from the Oakland County Water Resources, and I'll send that over to Ryan to start us off, please.
As we all know, we've had conversations in Ortonville around both ARP money as well as infrastructure projects. And the Water Resource Commission has been a part of many of those projects over the years. Brian, you may have met him before. He's the chief engineer at the Water Resource Commission, and he is here to tell us about the sanitary sewer service possibility in northwest Oakland County. So without further ado, let me take it from here.
Yes, thank you, Ryan. Again, my name is Brian Cover. I'm the Chief Engineer for Sewer Services for the Oakland County Water Resource Commissioner's Office. If you want to flip to the next slide. I'm going to tell you a little bit about a project that we've been involved with to extend sanitary sewer from Genesee County into northwest Oakland County. The project was initiated by Genesee County and working with Grand Blanc Township to deal with some service issues that they had on the east side of the township. They contacted the townships of Holly and Groveland and also our office to talk about potential service to this part of the county. We became involved when we were requested, like I said, by Holly and Groveland Township to work on this. This is what our office does. A lot of the sewer systems that were built in Oakland County were initiated by our office, which used to be called the Drain Commissioner's Office. And we built, systems that serve 800,000 people in Oakland County. So that's kind of our role, is to help the townships decide, what the costs are, what the service area looks like, things like that. So we worked with our stakeholders, which are on the screen, the townships, the village of Ortonville, since I'm here tonight, parks, because Oakland County Parks has Groveland Oaks, which is in Groveland Township. The DNR has Holly Rec area, which is in Groveland Township, both of which have failing septic systems that need to be addressed. And additionally, we work with economic development in Eagle and Genesee County. So those are all the players that we've been involved, that have been involved so far. We started this in late 2018. We've been kind of trodden through, trying to understand the project. I'll cover that a little bit in the next slides. A little bit about our office. The Water Resource Commissioner is an elected official, used to be called the Drain Commissioner. We own and operate, like I said, we serve 750,000 people through our regional sewer systems. The point of this slide is to let you guys know this is our business, we know what we're doing. We have 350 staff members that are ready to serve, and we're available 24/7, 365 through our safety dispatch. So, you don't have to worry about maintaining a system because that's what we do. And we also do the planning, like what we're talking about now. So next slide, please. Genesee County would be transporting and treating the wastewater from this area of Oakland County. It was part of the master plan when they built the Anthony Ragnon treatment plant up in Montrose, that this area would be part of that service district eventually. They're extending the Kersley Creek Interceptor, which is at Irish and 69. I think I covered all that. Okay, next slide, thanks. There's kind of three different parts to this project. We've changed from project to phase and region, so it gets confusing, but I'll try to walk you through real quick. The Kci Extension is the Genesee County project that extends it from Irish and I-69 down to Oakland County. And that, we don't know the cost yet. We think it's around $10 million. But all that cost would be shared by all the communities that benefit. So the Grand Blanc Township, Holly, Groveland, and whoever else decides to be served. Because this is the main trunk that serves everybody. Next slide, please. Project, or Region 1, is really Holly and Groveland service area and future service to Brandon and Ortonville. So this sets up the pipe sizing to accept that flow in the future. And it also provides direct service to Groveland Oaks, Holly Rec, Groveland Township, and Holly Township. They're especially interested in the Grange Hall, I-75 area, not so much going south to Springfield. Next slide. That's $35 million for that. And so everybody who contributes flow to that pipe would obviously pay for it. And I'll get to that here in a little bit. Project 2, Region 2 is what you're most interested in. This sets you up for service in Ortonville and Brandon's if you so choose. Basically, it would serve the lakes area of Brandon. That's what they've identified as needing service. Groveland, if it's wanted, will consider serving the business district north on M15. And then if Ortonville is interested, the whole service area would be in the village, if that's decided. That's $42 million for this phase of the project. So if you're doing your math at home, you're getting up to about $80, $90 million. It's expensive. You can slip to the next slide. Okay, so how we allocate costs, this is a lot of numbers, and it might be a little confusing, but the bottom line on this is that follow the Ortonville line, and you see you're paying about 20, if you guys decide to serve the village, you're gonna have a 21% of phase one, 48%. It's really equally balanced between Ortonville and Brandon if we look at, if they have the same service area that we laid out. So it's a 50-50 on Brandon and Ortonville, and then about 21% of the first phase in KCI costs. And then the total costs for Ortonville, I kind of took those in that separate table to the right in the green, and it shows the KCI would be 2.1 million, the phase one project, or project one, 3.7 million, and then 20.2 million for the next project, for a total of 26 million. So these are big numbers for planning purposes, for discussion. There's lots of money out there, which is on the next slide. We'll talk about that a little bit. And project status. I changed my slides up. So yeah, let's go to the next slide. Project status. So where we're at right now, we've designed everything preliminarily, right? We know that it's engineeringly feasible. We know we can build it. We know it'll flow the right way. We know how many pump stations we need to make it work. We know how big the pipe needs to be to make it work. We just need money to go forward, right? So that's the holdup on every project, is getting enough money. Oakland County has $244 million that they've been allocated through the American Rescue Plan. If you read it, it's really big, but it really says that it's for infrastructure and broadband. It doesn't say anything about some of the things that the Oakland County Executive's Office has put out that they'd like to fund. So our office supports this project for whoever's in. If Ortonville decides not to be in, we don't care. We just support whoever's on board and wants to build this project, and we get out of the way of people who don't, right? So if this project goes forward, we're asking for 25 million of that money to go towards making this project not only financially feasible, but also reserving capacity for Ortonville and Brandon, so Holly and Groveland can proceed, and you guys have future capacity if you ever decide to connect to it. Now, asking you to pay a couple $1 million for something you can't use is hard to bond for, right? So we need the money from the county to pay for the capacity to make all this work. We call it in our office the moonshot, because it really is. It's all these things lined up all at the same time to make this thing happen. And everyone's kind of trying really hard at this point to shake the trees and get this through at the county. I know that the townships have been talking to the county commissioner, Bob Hoffman, and I know there's some meetings that might be planned to have some internal discussions. That's all political, that's all outside of my realm. I can tell you how much it costs, and I can tell you how long it's going to take to build, and I can tell you, some ways that you can get money, but that's kind of the extent of where I go. There's also infrastructure money coming. There's this battle that's going on in Washington about all this money that's going to fall out of the sky for us. We don't know what that looks like. And the problem we have with future money is you don't know what restrictions they're going to put on it, you don't know what they're going to fund, and you don't know what their priorities are. So new construction is never a priority. It's always rehab or affordability or sustainability. So that's my argument back to the county is this is not going to get funded with infrastructure funds. This is new construction. They're not going to do that. So I don't have hope for that. Next slide, please. So next steps. You guys are kind of coming into this a little bit late, but we've had you on board the whole time. We weren't going to plan ahead and not reserve capacity for Ortonville if they wanted it. Now, if you don't want it, we may still reserve it for you, and we have the county pay for it, but it's just good planning for us to have that. The county's going to want to know this fall how big to make that pipe. And that's the challenge we have in our office right now, is coming up with an answer for that. We may negotiate our way to a bigger pipe at no cost. That's a possibility. I don't know where that's going to go. So for Oakland County next steps, we're trying to find funding. We want 5.8 for you, we want 5.8 for Brandon, and then the 13.4 for Holly and Groveland to offset their costs and make it more affordable for them. They were gonna finance somewhere in the neighborhood of $25 million or something like that. So, you know, we've done the financial planning on this to look and see how many customers you'll have, what the pro forma looks like for the first 5 years. It is feasible with an injection of cash. It's not feasible if we don't get the 25 million. It's hard. It's a lot harder. It's gonna be a lot more time, a lot more effort to get the money to do it. So that's why I said moonshot, right? So, communities, what I need from you guys is to review your master plan. Tell me what your sewer needs are. Look at what your service districts are for your sewer. Who do you want to serve? I'm assuming it's the whole village in the calculations we did, but if it's not, then that's good to know. We need to get your comments on the engineering report, which I'll send to Ryan here next week. And then we're asking for a resolution from each of the communities that are interested in this project. And I think that's on your agenda tonight. To formally request to Oakland County that they release some ARP funds for these communities for this project. We have resolutions from Holly Township, Groveland Township, Brandon Township, Springfield Township, and the Director of Parks at MDNR. So we've got some good support out there. You know, I asked for yours. It's great if you guys can provide it. If you don't want to provide it, that's fine too. But it's just more ammunition for us to go and say, people want this, and then we can move forward. Like I said though, I'm not here to force sewer on anybody. I'm here to facilitate whatever needs you have related to sewer. So with that, if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to take them.
I have a couple of questions. I'm going to start out with the first one. Looking at the numbers you give for the RUs for Ortonville and Brandon Township, it looks like you are counting the entire village for all RUs in the entire village area. Is that what was used on the basis for that? Where they came with 1384?
Yeah, that's what we looked at, and that's just the first round is just kind of like how does the allocation look and how much is everyone's relative cost. We got to get into that's the next step is looking at that more.
Because as you can see, Brandon Township obviously only chose a specific corridor, and possibly the lakes area because of where they have the greatest need. I would say we probably would want to do some kind of a similar evaluation because I know that the most needed area is the older, low-lying part of the town and the downtown district probably, but there's a good portion of the community that is in higher elevation and probably is not immediate need of sewers at this time. So I think that we probably want to take a look at some different scenarios using like what would the business district RUs be, and then what would the business district and the most needed areas be, and see how that plays into the percentages. So I just want to provide that feedback.
I have a couple of questions. So, and forgive me for not understanding this, but I'm sure other people don't either. They just won't admit it, right? When you have the Brandon Township and the Village of Ortonville, and we're both at roughly the 48%, I'm not sure, are we looking at this like we would be splitting this even when we're 1 square mile and the township is much larger? How is that determined?
So try not to get caught up on the numbers. The numbers are for figurative purposes to show you kind of how we did it. The numbers were based on, basically, I think it was the population of the village times a factor. It was a swag, and it's not intended to be perfect in any way. It was just a way for us to look at it. Everyone wanted to know how much is my share, how much is my share, and that's kind of a quick way that we can develop that.
Okay, so that is based on the population, and it is,
yes.
Okay.
But definitely open for discussion, revision. This is not final by any means. It's a study.
Okay, and I know you said the phase 2 is where we kind of come in or where it's more important, but yet for phase 1, it's 3.7 million. So that's paying for a portion of the hookup at the Kersley interceptor. So that money, whether or not we go forward with it, we give that money towards that interceptor to make sure that if in the future we decide to hook up, it's done prior.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
so
available for you because the way they allocate construction costs is based on how much percentage of flow you have in that pipe.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what I did in that allocation.
Okay. And is there a timetable at all on this yet?
So, if we get money, I think Holly and Groveland are ready to go, and we could design this next year and build it the year after. But, you know, if we go the other route, it's gonna be 5 years before Holly and Groveland see it, and then they may not want it. So, you know,
Yeah.
it's one of those things where they're at a point where they planned, and they want sewer, but they're gonna start having buildings want to come in and build in those areas that are gonna be
Yeah.
sewer, they want to put in septics, and then you lose your momentum towards sewer.
Right, and I know there's some personal investors that, you know, kind of tabled their plans,
Mhm.
and they're waiting for this, and I believe that if they don't get going or something doesn't come to fruition, they're gonna go ahead and do their plans, and then that personal investment, that's gone. And I know that that's being kind of relied upon during the planning stages right now. When would we have to have 3.7? Then when would we have to commit to that and have that?
So the way it would work, if the communities decided, we don't get the money, and they decide they wanted to proceed with the project, we would look for a petition. We would do it as a drainage district, so you'd have representation of the drain board. We could do it under Act 342, you can build a sewer system, but it's solely under Jim Nash's authority. We don't like to set things up that way. We'd rather have a 3-person drain board. He would tell us how to do things that we're supposed to be doing legally. So, to get back to your point, we look for a petition from the communities. We don't do anything until the communities ask us to do it. And then it would be prior to construction, you'd have to pay.
Okay. And that could be within 1 to 5 years.
Yeah, and we would bond it. Typically, what we do is bond it for about 20, in this case, maybe 30 years, just to make it more financially feasible.
Okay, and then you administer the program. So let's just say we do it and we hook up. You guys run the program through your office.
Yeah, so the communities can decide if they want us to operate and maintain the system, we will do that. And how we do that is we can go to your customers, you'll own the system, we'll go to customers, we'll maintain your system, we'll maintain your funds, and we'll be your fiduciary. But all the funds we have for you are yours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we do that for 15 communities right now.
Where does the project currently stand and where are they at right now today?
Right now, we're holding, waiting for money.
Okay, and that's for us for when ARP money or the county decides, so we're gonna put the pressure on them with the resolutions. What else can we do to push the county to take this matter seriously? What are some of the steps that we could do?
I can't tell you that, but I can tell you what we've done is we sat through several committee meetings and talked about our funds and how they should be used. And the memo that came out said nothing about infrastructure. He's made, David Coulter's made media comments that are not talking about infrastructure. So we have every reason to believe this is not on the radar.
Right.
But again, it's the commissioners that allocate funds. So they're the ones who have control of the purse. So
we should be connecting with our
make sure
commissioners?
you are connecting with, I think Michael Spitz is your commissioner. So make sure you're connecting with him and letting him know your
Okay.
concerns. If you want this project to proceed, we have a roadblock, obviously.
Yeah, so I mean, and is Groveland and Holly, are they doing the same? Are they hooking up with their commissioners and saying put the pressure on?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that's all I can think of right now. Thank you.
I got one, Brad. So, relative to the max REU, the 1384, relative to the 26 million, is that linear? So like if our REU went down to half, would the cost be half? Or that's not? Is it
On the last region, yes. The first one, it would be a fraction of a fraction, so it'd be harder to figure out.
on the first two?
The first two, yeah, it'd be a fraction of a fraction of the first two, but then on the last one, you could shift that based on the REU. It's just you and Brandon.
Well, actually, mathematically, it would drop us 1/3 because Brandon would still have the same amount. We'd be half, so it would be 1/3 of the total,
Okay,
right?
it's too late for me to do that.
Can we pull up whoever's got slide control, the slide with the charts of the, yeah, that one. So, the 1384, if that was half half, for just for talking purposes,
Mhm.
if that was half, then our KCI extension and phase one project one would stay the same, let's just say, and then the region two, Brandon Ortonville, that 20 million would then be half?
Well, the money wouldn't be half, your allocation would be different. It's not a linear relationship between construction costs and number of RUs.
That's what I'm asking.
No, there's not.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's the middle
It depends on where you're serving.
Yeah.
Yeah, to Brandon, it's more expensive because they have to go longer between service areas. Whereas here, it's gonna be shorter between service areas, but more lines.
We might drop to 14% of Brandon, and the others might go up by enough to compensate or something like that.
Yeah, and these numbers are only good for now, right? Because they're gonna change next year and the year after. So I mean, again, I don't want to put too much emphasis on the numbers. It's really just to give you a snapshot of kind of what we're thinking. Make sure we're on board, you're on board with what we're putting out there, right? We want to check in and make sure you guys agree with us through your resolution, and then, then we can talk turkey once we get into the detail a little bit more. You're not committing to anything tonight, by the way, either here. The resolution is only to show support for the project and support for Oakland County to fund a part of the project. We're not asking you to commit to anything.
You mentioned that there were some funding sources that you could tell us about?
Well, yeah, that was the infrastructure what I talked about.
Okay.
Yeah, those were the two that I mentioned.
Okay.
Yeah, not much more than that. There's a lot of funding that's sitting up at the state too that's just not allocated for whatever reason, the legislature at the state hasn't allocated some funding that came from Washington, and it's just sitting there. And so there's additional funding that's available if they ever allocate the funds to us. And some of that may be septic removal, and that's one of the things we've looked at is, between here and Holly and Groveland, we could remove how many septic systems, over 20 years, right? And what impacts that have on the environment. So you can demonstrate that and get funding for that.
Yeah, that also plays the sustainability too.
Correct. Yep. Checks all the right boxes. Yep.
I have a question. I know one of the things that's going to be a challenge in our community is there is a certain segment of our constituency that has relatively strong opinions about the sewer topic. What sort of resources does the Water Resource Commission have for community engagement to help educate and hopefully provide facts and information that might help change people's minds and get them more on board with this project?
It's interesting because we don't do this very often where we sewer new areas. This all happened like in the 60s and 70s, and I've been maintaining in my career, right? So this is the first time I built something. So I don't have a lot of resources for new, customers. But what I can say, so what we're looking at in Groveland is there's some concern over older people having to connect into the sewer. And the state law says if you're within 250 feet, you have to connect. It's a local decision whether or not that's enforced. What we're looking at in Groveland is saying, okay, new development, you got to connect. Existing commercial, you got to connect it to time of sale, and residential, you have to connect to time of sale. And that way, you don't get the pushback from people on fixed incomes saying, what are you doing to me? But then eventually, you will get the development, and you will get the funds back, and you will have, sewer customer there.
Yeah, Mr. Cullis had told me, basically, I don't know who they spoke with at Oakland County, but for those residents that put in a new septic, that they made a deal, or I'm not sure with whom, that you don't have to hook up until 30 years, or if it fails for some reason, because that was a big concern, because many people had put in new septic, engineered septics that are, as you know, up to 30,000, and more sometimes. So that is true, that is, okay, because that will...
Yeah, that's something, it's solely up to the local, village, township, on how they want to implement, sewer use.
But that, I was told that was a county, they're not going to make people hook up all within 5 years.
No.
Once your new system fails, if you have a new system.
It's whatever your ordinance dictates.
Okay, and they will work with that.
Yeah, we'll give you an ordinance that you can pass too, so, but it'll have something like that in there. It'll be whatever communities have.
Yeah.
Okay, Pat, did you have questions that you want to?
On this particular one, when you talk about the 20% for the village of Ortonville, are you talking about the entire village, all the residents in the village? if that's what we decided when you.
Yeah, we made an assumption that we were gonna serve the entire village. We took the population and multiplied it, I think, by 3.2 or 2.8, or whichever factor we have for people per house, so,
That
divided.
doesn't seem so awful, I mean, it's a big number, but it doesn't seem so awful when we're talking about the entire village. Thank you.
Brian, I've got a question. So, for the village of Ortonville, what is our total cost again? I just want to make sure. Our total.
26 million.
So that's what I want to make sure. So out of the $26 million, that's the total. We can get grant money, and certainly we need that grant money to help us get this 26 million. Ryan, just a ballpark, what do you, and I'm not going to hold you anything, I just want to get some kind of idea. What do you think in the best case scenario we could get to offset that 26 million for Ortonville?
Well,
Just
this
throw it
is
on the
team,
road.
was the 26 is Brandon and Ortonville, isn't it?
Is that what it is?
No,
No,
26
that's
is
just ours.
just
That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Sure, you know.
Okay.
All right, 26 is Ortonville.
Yeah, 26.
26, okay, because it says Region 2 Brandon and Ortonville.
Just throw out a best case scenario on it from what you think. I'm not gonna hold you. I just wanna-
Yeah, I have no idea off the top of my head, but
Okay.
like Brian said, we'd be able to do bonds over 20 or 30 years to spread it out a little bit so you don't get hit with it all at once. There's a couple different, federal agencies and things that help with that kind of thing.
And there's more money available now because of what's going on in the economy, that this is a good time to get funds. I guess I still, and I'm not gonna get into it too much, but I guess I still have some concern that if we were fixing an existing sewer system, we're fine. But I look at it as fixing our existing waste treatment and from a generic concept, that's what we're really doing. We got to go into Flint and basically say, I don't know, you got to replace pipes. And so I would hope in that case we would be looked upon more favorably. I would think that the areas that are most in need of that would instead of saying, well, you don't qualify because you don't have it, well, that's exactly why we do need it, because we're most in need of this particular money, this particular project. All right, so we've got $26 million, Ryan. Let's say we could get 10 million of that. Okay, you think, let's just throw that out. Then we the taxpayer have to come up with 16 million dollars.
So-
Am I on the right track?
I can give you a little bit of how this gets financed. It's like starting a business without having capital, right? So what we're doing is we're going out and we're putting a bunch of pipe in the ground and we're hoping for customers to help us pay it back, right?
Yes.
So what you charge, when everybody connects, every time someone connects, you charge a capital charge. And we're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of $7,500
Okay.
per REU connection fee, right? So that's how you get your money back.
Okay.
Every time someone connects to chain, you get money, and that helps pay off your debt.
Okay.
And so that's the 5-year financials that I did, was looking at how much, I did it for Holly and Groveland mainly, not for you guys yet, but I looked at mainly, how quick are these people going to come online based on what those township supervisors are telling me, and what's the cash flow look like from those connections, and how's that look against the debt payments, right? So it works with the money. A little bit scarier, financially, without it, but we have a plan B, which is we're going to go look for the septic money. We have plan C, which is the infrastructure money, and there's plan D, which is that money that's sitting up in Lansing. So, this doesn't, if you guys still have a want for this, and Groveland and Holly say no, there's still an opportunity. It doesn't go away. So,
Okay.
it just gets more expensive.
Yeah, I mean, right now is the perfect storm. And if it's going to happen, now is the time. There's money and there's never money available.
Right.
And you have the surrounding communities.
Unrestricted money.
Right, and that's the hardest thing.
That's the
Yeah,
hardest
right?
And as you know from our history, it's something we've tried to do alone, knowing that there is a need when we didn't have the support. And to have the support and the ball already rolling from other communities really assists us to find, better ways in order to solve our problems with it. So we appreciate
We're happy to help.
a change in the information, because obviously it's a little different from what it looked like last time, and it's
Yeah.
way more helpful. So we appreciate that very much.
great.
Where would the treatment plant be, or the treatment center?
This is Montrose.
In Mount, okay.
I have a question. Do you still have those 0%, zero interest, zero payment loans available for low-income people to finance these? Because I know
It
that was
does
a
not
program
go
for
for
the
that.
community.
They have grant forgiveness at the state level, and that's one of the things that we're gonna look at too is I don't know income level how we are here, but in some communities you can look at, affordability, and you can use the indexes to make your case, check the right boxes to get the right funding. So
Yeah, well, that was a program that, back, what was it, 20?
We still have that program, it does not
When
cover
was that, when
septic
was the vote that they voted on?
in 17, but that doesn't cover septic. You're
Okay.
talking about the county program. What's the county program,
County program.
where it goes against your mortgage to home improvements?
Oh,
What is that called?
yeah, it's the block grant, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh,
And that doesn't cover septics. So that was the issue.
They told us back then that it would cover that. I mean, we were told back then, somebody came out from Oakland County and presented that was an option for low-income people to pay for the assessment that would be placed against them when we were talking about financing projects back then.
You can also, some communities place a lien on the property if they can't pay the connection charge. They'll place a lien on the property, and that's another way you can recoup your costs.
And then when they sell, you
When
get
they
the.
sell, you get the cost back, yeah.
And again, you do all that paperwork and all that administration.
Yeah, and special assessments are another way you can extend into areas. There's lots of creative ways to finance things. If the developer wants to extend, you can do a kind of payback agreement with them, and they pay for it, and then as people connect, they get paid back. There's all kinds of things that make it a lot more nimble to get these projects built for communities. So, if you keep your ear open, if you have a developer who's looking to spend money somewhere, we'll help them.
And well, back then, when we were looking at, I think the estimate for the project that we were looking at back then, the sort of whole thing was 18 million, so this is about 6 to 8 million more than that, and that was voted down pretty significantly back then. That's why I'm looking for resources to help improve community engagement and education so that we can really get a better commitment from the community towards this project.
I think reserving your capacity is the best bet now, just to make sure it's available for when you start to look at these questions of where do you want to serve, and is there support for it, and do people want it? But keeping your options open is really a good idea.
Well, I think we all know the businesses are strongly supportive, so even if the rest of the community isn't, we probably could at least use this to lever something for the business to help alleviate business needs in the downtown.
And Brian, a question I have there, if we try to sell this at phase one of this, you might have heard this too, it would be for our downtown, I'm talking Ortonville now, which would be Mill Street and South Street, or downtown, it would be the M15 corridor. And there's two primary lakes that we have around here, Lake Louise and Bald Eagle Lake. So that, when I've been talking to people, I'm telling them that that's what it would be. On that initial phase, if we took care of that phase first, what is the average Joe and Sally Potato paying out of their income to them?
So so a residential equivalent unit is equal to one house, right? So a good example, like a restaurant is like 8 RUs or something like that, depending on what kind of restaurant it is. But so you can allocate RUs to a business based on house, right? So you're comparing it to a house. So if a business has 2 RUs and they want to connect, that's $15,000 coming in to the coffers. That's what they're going to have to pay.
And this is a direct cost to that business.
Correct.
It doesn't come down to the residential areas as far as I'm concerned.
Well, if they want to connect, then yeah.
Ultimately, yeah. But I'm saying if we start off with basically just our business district, then the individual homeowner doesn't put in any money at all in this.
Well, it's totally, the
The
rate payers pay for it. Whoever your rate payers are, residential or commercial, whoever's paying a water and sewer, a sewer bill is paying for this project. It's not the taxpayers. We don't send the bill directly to you. We send it to your water and sewer fund, which is going to pay it through us.
All right, so Beth will take care of it. That'd be possible.
How long have you been working on this already?
I've been working on this since 2018.
But the initial cost though, the 3.7 million, would have to be, what? I got 3.7.
Yeah, last page.
No? I don't know.
It's those two line items are together.
Oh, okay. Okay, 558. 5.8. All right. That initially has to come out of the taxpayers' money, or we can find the grants, or have, try and get some APR money, or
Or you can bond it.
or bond it. Okay, so those are the only ways. So that initial cost may not be coming, and we could cover it with grants or some of the American Rescue Plan. We may not have to pay that if we could find.
That's the hope, yeah, that's what I'm asking for tonight. The resolution that says, we support this, please spend
Right.
your money on it, and then hopefully we get the money, and then I'm back to you guys saying, hey, I need a lot more information from you guys.
Right.
But then, at least you've got the capacity reserved, right? That's the win that you
Absolutely.
need right now.
And, yeah, and if you're gonna do this, you gotta make sure you got the right size pipe and know what's coming on, and it really is, either we're gonna do it or we're not, and then let's not ever talk about it again, if we're not gonna do it, because it's
Key.
So, this is an email to you. So I think, Mr. Hayden keeps referring to education. I don't think it's an education thing. I think it's purely a financial thing. And I think that last time that we went down this road, there wasn't a whole lot of homework done to figure out how to pay for it. It was, here's the cost, we're gonna divvy this up, and everybody's gonna pay their portion.
Right.
Well, and that's what nobody could stomach. So it's different when there's, again, to his point, there's 37,000 different ways to pay for this, grants and whatnot, creative things, yada, yada, yada. So the thing to do would be to look at, I don't know if that's Ryan, I don't know if that's bringing in, a contractor for a week, I don't know who that is, to figure out the best way to pay for this and what things are out there. So it's, in my mind, it's not really an education thing, it's a financial thing, and figuring out how we're gonna pay for this. Because we already have, streets, we need to spend another, I don't know, $2, $3, $4, $5 million on streets that we don't have the money for, and we have to come up with a way to pay for that as well. So, again, I think this is fantastic, I think it would be great, but yeah, if the whole village has to divvy up $26 million, it's never gonna happen. But if we can get, grants and whatnot to pay for a large chunk of that, well, then that's a different conversation.
And I think we have to make the decision as to which areas we would like to concentrate on, before we know numbers to concentrate on.
Right.
Before we know ways to find support for that money, we don't even know what our numbers are.
Yeah.
So, there's options. Are we doing the whole village? Are we doing just the business district? Are we giving people the option to tap in, or is every number is going to be different based on what we decide to do, what it will look like? But we don't know that until we know what's available and accessible to us to get numbers. So,
I've been living this for
hard
like
horse,
2
hard
years.
horse, right?
It's been 2 years of that. And so the resolutions I thought was a way to get us in front of it just a little bit, to say, okay, do we have your attention yet? We really want this project. And if that happens, it makes everything very, very easy from here.
And so, in a perfect world, we're all on board, we all support, your voice is heard. Finally, we have the next step of, hey, these are the options of what's available, to you, what might work money-wise, and here you go. So then we have the chance to make our decisions at that level. We have a chance to make the decisions of who and where and when. We have a chance to make decisions of what grants we have access to. So every step we have the chance. By signing the resolution is, we would like to entertain the idea. Correct?
Yeah, you want to be in the room.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. it took
So
us
we're
so
kind of
long.
going way ahead of ourselves with the answers that we don't have yet, which I know, to Keith's question, that is very hard for us to say we don't have answers for you, but hey, we'd love to do this. And I think that's important to keep in mind, and I'm glad you brought that up again. But I think this is way before any of that we don't have answers for.
But Keith is right.
I'm not looking for answers today.
No.
I'm just saying before we bring this to the village to
Oh,
say, hey, we want to do
absolutely.
this, let's figure out how we're going to pay for it.
Yes, and I would hope that, yeah.
When we get to that step, yes.
And
When we
that's
get-
when they can
when we
see
get
what it's
there.
gonna cost them right now or at the point where they hook up. And, you know, that's a different picture with all this money floating around right now, because we were only thinking, I mean, before we were just trying to taxpayers' dollars. Now we have opportunities to get.
And only 1 square mile to do a
Yes.
treatment center.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, and that was just.
And I like the idea that the treatment center is in Montrose,
Mhm.
but it's not, you know.
And I
we
love
have it here.
that they will administer everything.
Exactly.
I was concerned about the office and Jenna and Beth, and how does that work? And that was my first question. Hi, Brian, now will you take care of everything? So,
So is it fair to say that we are interested in entertaining a motion?
Not yet.
Not yet, that's fine.
All I want to do is make sure on this, Brian, because I know when, I'm surprised Sean's not here tonight, but when this hits the papers and the people look at this, well, what you're again saying tonight is, we're not, because I know the best thing we like to hear is, hey, yes, but we're not committed to anything. And in a way, you're not here, yes. What we're saying is, do we as a group support this concept? Yes. But to the people of this town, we haven't committed any financial resources at this point.
Right, the question I'm asking.
And that's what they'll want to know. So what did
question-
you do behind my
I
back?
guess the question I'm asking is, do you guys want the county to pay for you to have access to sewer?
Yes.
yes, very well.
That's the
put.
question I'm asking.
Right.
Yeah.
And Brandon did this, and they had their article 2 weekends ago in the paper. And it is just in support of, and that's
Yes.
why I brought it up at the last meeting. It's like, come on.
So that's why I'm
Yeah,
hoping
we
from a
gotta do
home
this.
standpoint that with that in mind,
Yeah.
we come on very strong. That's all I'm saying. In favor.
And to be honest, Keith, when I talk about education, it's also about how these costs are handled, because, you know, there's costs with septics too. We know whenever a septic fails in the older part, we're talking about having to spend $25,000-$35,000 for an engineered system, and that's something a lot of people can't afford either. So educating people on the true cost of septics too is part of that educational process, so they can understand why this is going to be a better option financially in the long run.
Well, I think the taxpayers are interested, what's the bottom line? What's it gonna cost me?
Yeah, exactly.
They don't care how we get there, just what's it gonna cost me in the end?
And that's where you have to balance that equation with, if we do nothing, this is gonna be the cost to you eventually too, so you gotta take into account that we can do this at this cost, or eventually you're gonna have to pay that cost, and you gotta make a decision.
And I guess the last thing I'll say on it too, I'm hoping for overall benefit to the public at large. For example, I don't have kids in Brandon schools, but if they came up with a decent bond issue, I would support it for the betterment of the community type of thing, even if I'm not going to directly benefit from that. So I'm hoping on the sewer system, we could work that angle a little bit too. That, okay, yeah, the fact is, I just got a new engineer or whatever, and I personally, in that case, I don't pay for it. But the bottom line is that this is for the overall betterment of our community. And I like to say for our kids, you know, something we can do, so, okay.
So Ryan is now on all the meetings that will be happening in the
Yes.
future?
Yes.
Okay, and do you have a meeting that is planned?
No, we're on hold pending funding.
Okay, and that could be,
Then we're gonna be on hold probably till September, and then we're gonna start looking at Plan B.
okay, and then in the meantime, we can look at what you had requested?
Yep.
Okay, and is there anything else that we should do other than contact, you know, our representative?
That would be helpful.
Okay, and, all right, I will get more information.
Bye.
I'll do that later.
It can be all-
We could all-
Or,
Pardon me? I'm sorry,
I
what?
thought that's what I said.
I
We could do a,
I didn't hear you.
not a resolution, but something where we all, you know, sign and send it to it.
Our county commissioner will see this resolution.
Okay, all right.
You gonna go sit in his desk?
If I need to.
Yeah.
I'm ready to commit as much time as
He
I
answers
humanly
every
can.
email you send him.
Ryan knows how important this is, thank God.
yeah. Thanks, Mike. Okay, guys.
So,
Now,
It's up to you guys, you do your.
I'm going to cut to the chase. I make a motion to approve the resolution for the Village of Ortonville resolution requesting Oakland County allocate $25 million of its American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 allocation to fund Phase 1, a project to extend sanitary sewer service along Dixie Highway and Grange Hall Road and reserve capacity for Phase 2 of the project.
Support?
As presented.
All right, we have a motion on the table by trustee Hayden, supported by trustee Nyfeld. Do we have any questions or comments on the motion? All right, anything else additionally we need before we vote? Nyfeld?
Yes.
Dylas?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Green?
Yes.
Hayden?
Yes.
Rice? Yes. Thank you, that motion carries 5-0. We very highly appreciate you.
Thank you.
joining us.
I will be back talking. Yeah, we'll see you
Tell
next-
Jim we said hi.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, item number 9 is the
Wait, wait.
trustee.
Would it be 6-0?
Oh, it is 6-0. Good catch, thank you. No, we
I want to make
don't
that
have
strong,
there.
strong.
Wait a minute.
Good catch, Pat.
All right, so that motion carries 6-0.
6. Good deal.
Next up is the trustee committee updates, and we will start with Keith, please. Work our way up that.
No updates other than what Ryan has talked about later on. We have our meeting once a month. We're not going to have our next meeting yet, so.
All right, Pam,
B,
please.
regarding the Historical Society and Senior Center, all I can tell you there is I know it's tomorrow night, there's a Historical Society meeting, and the topics on the agenda will be the blacksmith shop, and the fact that they're looking for a membership drive. And I think that's the two big things that'll be discussed tomorrow night. That's it.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, Keith, please.
We were going to have a meeting on Sherman Park, but everybody's schedule is crazy right now. So what we decided, and it was what we talked about at our last meeting, going ahead and having Brian and Bob Westphal give the bids on who could engineer it. We need plans drawn up before we can do anything. So we're not going to meet, but they're going ahead with that. And hopefully in August, we'll have the bids back and we'll also meet during that time. It's just everybody's on vacation or running here and there, and it's just been kind of difficult to schedule. Second of all, the box outside looks very nice. Thank you, whoever fixed that. It looks professional and good.
Mostly Mary.
Mostly.
Mary.
Oh,
Who
really?
cleans the office
Oh,
in here.
really? It's very nice. Thank her. Tell her it looks very good. And then I'm going to speak for Tony on the movie in the park. The next one is July 17th next week, and it's Hawaiian themed. It begins at dusk. Lilo and Stitch will be playing. Other activities are on the 17th, including you can get personalized mugs, a petting farm, 2 bounce houses, giveaways, and a 3-on-3 basketball tournament. And so everybody, if you can, come out. I'm on vacation next week, but please come out and enjoy.
That's the Saturday.
I know.
Wow. Thank you. All right, Larry, what would you have for us this evening?
Okay, IT committee has not met, but I believe Ryan will provide some updates in the manager's report on some progress made about internet to accessing the old town hall here. We also did have a personnel committee meeting, and although we didn't get meeting minutes in time for the packet, they were distributed to everybody. Hopefully you have those, and I know that some of those topics that were covered in the IT and the personnel committee are also on the agenda tonight, so we'll be covering some of those. And although I'm not the planning commission, this is yours, but I did meet with today with Patty and Ryan and Bob Arthur to start looking at the master plan updates to get things all in line and ready for the RRC IRC stuff, so we did meet today and discuss those. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Next up is Melanie, please.
Okay, planning commission, we had met on the 6th, and we really just reviewed what the committees were doing. So there's not a whole lot of information there. Wayfinding style guide should be completed and delivered this week. Hallelujah. ASI did not get their rendition to us of the signage, but they sent it this week. It was supposed to be last. I do know they're short-staffed and they've been trying to hire for 15 months, so they're having issues with hiring, but this week we are supposed to get it. Once we have that, we can do cost estimates, pulling together a meeting to get the bids out for phase 2 and to address existing signage. Heritage Garden, tomorrow we meet for our next steps, and the survey results will be in packets at the next council meeting. There'll be the results of the survey with summaries included in the packets.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And Trustee Green gave us a couple of, well, the item from Tony, so we do have that. Manager Manis, is there anything you could think of committee-wise that we haven't touched on that you don't want to wait for, that you thought of?
I can speak to IT committee now, if that's easiest. Because I don't have anything in the packet for it, I apologize. But it's ongoing, working with IT rights, in cabling and getting a router and internet access point here. We hope to have that in the near future, but it's a can of worms, just like so many things, that it's not as easy as it seems. So it's coming soon.
Every step up. Thank you. All right, and DTA, thank you very, very, very much to everybody in the community, businesses, residents, and everybody outside of the community who helped make the fireworks absolutely amazing. Another year, we were flexible, but it still went well. Farmers Markets continues on Saturday mornings, 9 to 2. Spread the word, they're looking for volunteers as well. The market continues to get bigger. This week starts produce, so be there at 9 o'clock or don't get any. So keep that in mind. And I think that's it for them. Everything else has been covered anyway, so thank you. We'll move on to item number 10 this evening, which is the unfinished business. We have nothing on the July 12th agenda, which brings us to number 11, which is the new business part 2. We'll start with A, which is the resolution to approve staff wages changes, and have it retroactive to July 1st. Did you want to start?
Sure. In your packet, you'll find a spreadsheet as well as more information about staff wages. In the near future, I will be working towards a pay scale to better gauge wage increases and pay rates based on job descriptions and duties performed and all that fun stuff. I'm yet to find a municipality of our size that has a pay scale, but there are some bigger ones for basis, for comparison. In the past, raises, paid time off, and other considerations occurred based on when an employee was hired in, which means that time accrues and raises happen at different times throughout the year, and it can be a little tricky. This is your shameless plug that I would love input on the personnel policy manual, but by the end of July, because those are things that we'll be considering as we look at, as the personnel committee looks at the personnel policy. We're going to help clean up those practices as well as policies. So you can see from the, we discussed it during the budget process, and then you'll see in the attached spreadsheet what the current rate, hourly rate for each employee is, as well as the proposed rate, and what that would total for the suggested annual payroll. At this time, I recommend the village council make a motion to adopt a 3% wage increase for hourly village employees retroactive to July 1st, 2021.
Are you looking for support?
You can't make the
No, I
motion.
can't make a motion.
Are you making a motion?
That's my recommendation.
Well, that's right. We have to
We have,
We are not.
But you can make the motion.
I would make a motion to support a 3% pay raise for our village employees retroactive to July 1st, 2021. Per recommendations.
All right, we have a motion on the table by trustee George, supported by trustee Hayden. Do we have questions, comments, or discussion at this time? Please.
So a couple things. First thing is, a lot of companies do a annual review that is not uncommon in industry, especially automotive anyways. So that doesn't matter when you're hired in, that every year you get evaluated and you get a raise based on, your previous year's accomplishments, what have you. So that is not uncommon. That makes that whole process a whole lot simpler, doing it all one time per year. So I would hope that we would do that. As far as the 3% for everybody across the board, I know a few people just got raises recently and they were fairly significant. I guess why do we feel we need to give them an additional 3% on top of their significant raise they just received recently?
do you want to answer that, Tanya, or you want me to?
I think and I know Tony's not here to speak for him, but I think each of us probably have a different, reason or opinion, so I think we can speak on that, yes. But for me, what we gave in between the standard July raises is something that you noticed that was different. It wasn't, I personally see the standard raises as, we aren't even anywhere near inflation. We're trying to keep up. We have a very small budget. We're trying to keep up. We're recognizing that we don't pay much and we're trying to keep up. And so for us, I think it's the smallest things that we can do. The things that happened between there for certain employees was a recognition of something specific, not for, we appreciate what you've done and we want to, pat you on the back another year because you've been amazing. So it's, to me, two different balls of wax, but that's, like I said, my opinion. I don't want to speak for Tony or Larry as to why they wanted to. So let me go ahead.
Yeah, this topic was raised, and we talked about this quite a bit. And partly the council, in part, took the recommendation of the village manager at that time to proceed with those raises, and it was not in accordance with our normal raise period and stuff like that. And we looked at that and said, this is part of the issue that we have, is that there's been too many times when we've done things that are inconsistent, not in alignment with past practices or things like that. And we said, because it's really tough, because, I think we know that the employees we're talking about, I think we all know Bob is doing a tremendous job. So I think that was merited on his part. And I think the other thing is that I don't know exactly what the situation was with Treasurer, but there was reasons why that raise was also put in there too, is my understanding. And we decided that the easiest thing to do is just say, okay, since we have a new manager now, let's just start like with a clean slate. We'll give everybody the same thing. And in the future, as you mentioned, it would make more sense to formalize some policies that, if somebody does get hired in between the annual period, we have some policies in place to deal with how the raises get happen in prorating time and vacation pay and all these things together, so we can get them all aligned consistently and be more consistent moving forward. So this is more like, okay, let's just do something fair for everybody at the 3% for the inflation, and consider this a reset while we evaluate the best ways moving forward to be more consistent and not have this type of situation come up in the future.
But it would come again. If you hired somebody a month before we did our budget, you gave them whatever price it was, whatever rate was
Yes.
going. Then a month later, or 2 weeks later, whatever it was, then we're going to automatically give them 3% every year.
But no, that's the whole point, is this year, we don't have policies in place to cover those situations. Between this year's, right now, we're already at the point where budgets that we have to do this now for it to be fair to the employees. And so we're just going to set it as 3% for everybody. In the future, we've talked about, as Keith mentioned, some kind of a point system evaluation where you can have some kind of a grading system for an annual evaluation to determine the relative performance of the employee and set pay scales based upon that for raises and things. and also set up some kind of a procedure so people who are hired in between the annual period, we have something in place to define exactly what percentage raises would be appropriate for a person who comes in and has only been there part of the year, things like that. So that's the whole thing, is we need input from everybody. What's the best way to handle that fairly, so in the future we're more consistent when we hire people in between times and not have this, every person who's hired in has some different thing that they're told and some different thing that they're promised, and then that's been the issue. We've had, you know, people were told certain things or promised certain things when they get hired in, and then, you know, when those things happen, it throws off things because they're special cases. Everything's like a special case. We need to be more consistent is what we're looking for.
I guess I don't have a problem with that. And I value our employees, so I'm just gonna throw this out, it's just for conversation. But we just gave everybody a significant raise.
Not everybody.
Who did we
Two
get?
people, only 2 people got it,
Only 2 people.
and that was in December.
I thought,
I'm Jen.
In December.
he just hired in, so we started him way at the top of the scale.
Ryan didn't get a raise, and Ryan is not up for a raise for this round.
Yeah,
So
and actually-
he
Yes,
has
I know
no
what we're talking
raise.
about, our employees.
We're
I
talking
did
about-
not
You
get
didn't
that.
get that, okay.
And nor did our other DPW.
There's 2 other DPW as well.
Nor did our cleaning lady.
Yeah.
Nor did Mary. So, I mean, and the opposite side of that is, and yes, Jen, I'm sorry you're sitting right here, but, so Jenna received a raise in December, but are we going to penalize her, make her wait a year and a half to get another raise? That's, she was recognized for doing above and beyond, and we know doing manager's work. So therefore, she was recognized separately for something. You know, I don't want to take her from what everybody else is or isn't doing and the success she's had from that point. So from December to July, she's proven herself to continue to be successful. I don't want to take the words out of Ryan's mouth, but
I just think we're, at some point, we're gonna be paying, I hate to even say this, but we're paying so much in salaries right now, that and there comes a point where you have to cap it, because we just don't have that kind of money. And
And-
I'm concerned, we're getting ready to cap it real soon.
well, and we've looked at that, and we have a chart on that, and we're not. We are average of communities, our size and our budget,
Other
and
communities, I'm saying our budget.
but
Our
so
budget.
we're not necessarily maybe spending the money where we should or shouldn't, and recognizing our employees. If they're only at a 50 percentile of what other communities are doing of our size, maybe we're not giving them the acknowledgement that they need. If we're hiring Ryan in at the lowest budget and nobody's anywhere near him when we hire him in, maybe we're not necessarily doing what we
But we
should
didn't do
for our
that to
employees.
him. We didn't do that.
Compared to what other municipalities were hiring at of the same size at that time, is what I'm saying. We knew we were on a low ball field.
So I'm optimistic that going through a pay scale process, we're gonna be able to identify where we're high and where we're low, and see where we compare with other municipalities and things like that.
Okay.
That's a process I haven't been able to get too far into yet, because some other
Right.
stuff comes up once in a while.
Mhm.
That would be the only other time, if that happens later this year, as I'm optimistic it's going to, that would be the last time we ask for a mid-year correction on wages. Because then we would have a process going forward according to the personnel policy and the pay scale. We would know this is where somebody with this skill set starts, and over time it'll change to this, and we'll be able to track it a whole lot
We're
better.
gonna ask for more money before the year's over.
It could happen. I'm not saying I'm going to, but
And please
It's
understand,
possible.
I value our employees greatly, and I don't want to take away anything from them. I want us to not go bankrupt while we do it.
Sure.
Like, pay our employees, and then we have no money to do anything else. We
Well,
should not be top heavy. I don't care what the municipalities do. If they don't have the same exact money that we do, it's not the same. But if you can show where they're doing the same thing, you know what?
Well, we did the research in 2019 for the 2020 budget year. And like I said, that's what we found, and that's why it was really important for Bob to make that change, knowing that Bob was very well underpaid, not just for what he does extra, but what he does according to his job description. So that was why it was important to us at that time. But again, I don't feel the need to penalize and take out those two. I would like to see the 3% across the board for everybody who has earned it since their last raise, no matter when it was. They may have been at different times.
And I think, go ahead first.
Just out of curiosity, Have we been giving 3% raises every year, like the last 5,
2,
10 years?
2.5, or 3. The township, the police, the fire, and us all, it depends on budgeting and what you have. But it's very standard for all of us to do very similar. And all of their employees get it no matter when they hire in.
I'm sorry, Mr. Answer, I was just asking, have we been giving a 3% raise every year for the
2,
last?
2.5, or 3. It depends on the year,
So we get two-
budget-wise.
We have not been,
We standard protocol, we get 2 to 3% raises
Yes,
every year.
absolutely.
yeah, but not even.
And then we had another bonus money that we gave them, and then we have, everything's been so inconsistent, but yes.
And comparing to
some
other
sort.
communities around the area, they're also in line
What
with that 2 to
communities
3%.
did you, just
I don't know
curiosity?
which ones we are, but we were looking at some numbers about,
That was the chart from 2019, and we can send that out, but what I was saying is Brandon Township, the police, the fire, we all do similar
Yes.
of, what we have
Brandon
in the
Township
way of the 2 to 3%.
has a whole lot more tax base than we do.
And a whole lot more expenses than,
Ortonville.
I mean, it's,
and more employees too.
I know.
Well, Beth, would you like to weigh in and say anything on this topic?
You can feel free.
Please.
Number one, we have never given out raises in the middle of the year, and that never should have happened.
Okay.
And if it was, all of us should have gotten.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I guess,
And
I was so new when
Well,
we did that.
wait a minute, what else did
I
you
thought
want
it
to
was
say?
the normal time to do it, because we were getting ready. to-
Go ahead and continue. Go ahead. No? Yeah, and I'm very glad that we're finally addressing this. As all of you know, personnel was a huge reason why I ran, because we haven't been consistent with anything, whether it was pay or reviews on people. It's been a mess. So it's really nice that we're finally going to give it the attention that it should have been given. So I hope everybody does send their comments in to Ryan or personnel.
and I know, Beth, you didn't get a chance to speak, so did you have anything you'd like input-wise as well? I just want to share. Ryan, besides what you wrote in the report, did you have any input on?
No, not at this point.
I just felt it was very discriminating.
I understand that you would,
Mhm.
and I'm sorry,
Yeah, I am too.
because we love you and you do a great job, and you busted butt on this budget.
Yeah.
So I can only speak for myself, but I do appreciate you and your work, and I am sorry. So we're gonna get that fixed.
I guess that the ultimate goal will help.
Yep, we're gonna get it fixed, so that doesn't happen again
Yeah.
to anybody. I don't want anyone to feel
No, I don't even,
that way.
and they shouldn't.
And that's why personnel feels it's so important to get some consistent policies in place so we don't have this sort of thing.
Right, but, and this will get me started, and I'm not going to. Personnel has been doing at this since 17.
Okay, let me get back to, we're
Yeah,
talking about
but
the
no, it's
raises.
important that that's on record, so.
This is an agenda item of
Yes.
raises only at this
Right,
point, so we
so
have to stay on track.
it's very
I would
important
love to
that's
put
on
that
record,
back
though.
on there.
Thank you.
So what is our, any more discussion on the topic of the agenda item, which is the raises for the current projected requested raises? Anybody?
When was the last overall increase?
Supposed to be the beginning of July. It was not put in place because we didn't have the manager hired till August, September. So it was done in October and not made retroactive to July. So they didn't officially get it till October.
What about the other employees?
Everybody got it in October. Was it
Oh,
at the beginning of
everybody got it in
October?
October.
Do you remember? When, it was the end of October, 26, wasn't it? 20-something. I think it was the end of October. Because our meetings were only the end of the month.
You're talking about last year?
Yeah.
So it was the October meeting, which is the end of the month,
Yes, and
Okay.
I wanted it retroactive.
which, you're right. And that's been inconsistent too. Should it be? Yes. Have we done that? No. So if we don't get to meet when we should, it's not their fault. We should be penalized. But at the time, the manager felt very strongly to not make it retroactive, so.
I thought we passed the retroactive. Didn't we, Pat? I thought we passed in October, I thought we passed
Yes.
retroactive to July.
We did,
I was pretty sure. of that.
We went back and did it later.
because I pressed the issue.
Right,
Okay.
right.
First we did it, then we went back and did it.
Yeah, we did fix
So,
that.
so just to be clear then, last year's raise didn't occur until October, but eventually it was made retroactive to
Yes.
July 1st.
Right.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so July 1st is the normal time
Right.
when raises are.
Yes.
Right.
And we've never had retroactive before because it always was done on 1st of July.
Right. I mean, that's.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thoughts? Please.
So can we ask Ryan for a proposed personnel policy change? Or
They're working on it now. You're supposed to submit your ideas
We're
to
asking
them.
you guys to give all of us.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
By the end of July, get it
Said it
in.
all, says it all.
Yeah.
The sooner you get us input, the quicker we can get something back.
Yeah,
Okay,
end of July, Keith.
sorry, I was thinking.
I feel like honestly it was a rough week.
Any other thoughts, questions?
Take care of that later.
All right, so we're looking for either something of some sort. Was that a discussion? What are we doing?
I thought there was a motion.
We already got a motion.
We have it, yeah?
Yes.
So are we all set?
Yep, we're ready to do a roll call.
All right, thanks.
So then I guess we're ready for John, please.
Dynas,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Nigel,
Yes,
Bryce.
Thank you, that motion carries 6-0. Item D for the evening will be the resolution to approve the MML voting delegates. We'll send it over to Ryan, please.
So in your packet, you'll find information about the Michigan Municipal League annual meeting notice. I think we all got the postcard in the mail about the upcoming Municipal League annual meeting. It's happening in person this year in Grand Rapids, September 22nd through 24th. During the annual convention, they have an annual meeting on Wednesday, September 22nd, with details that are in your packet. We had expressed an interest in attending the Municipal League annual convention, and so we thought it would be prudent to put this in our packet now. It is calling for choosing a delegate and an alternate delegate to attend that meeting as a voting representative of the Village of Ortonville. Part of the timeliness of this, I know it seems early, it's not till late September. This conference happens during Art Prize. So getting registered, getting a hotel room, everything like that is going to be kind of urgent when they open registration. So if we, so you'll see at the back of that item, resolution number 2021-712, a resolution which I recommend the council take up.
is there anybody that is interested in it? And being
Well, who's going,
designated or?
who's interested in going to the conference first, I think is the question, before that.
Yeah, well, I knew that you were, and Ryan said he
I'm
was.
interested in going, but I have.
Yeah, I would be interested if I could see the full agenda.
They haven't released it yet.
Yeah.
It's soon today. at lunch.
And that's the thing, because I want to make sure there's classes that are really worth it. Because if they're
Well,
not,
they usually are. I mean, in the past, they have always been beneficial.
well, that's what, I mean, I'd be interested in going, but I would like to see the agenda first before.
It's also a great opportunity for networking with other people in
Yeah.
the communities too. That's
See what they're doing, how they're doing this and that kind of thing.
And I'll remind remind you that we do have $1,500 budgeted for conference and education for
How much is?
council. 1,500.
Better be less.
No,
It's the amount budgeted for all conference and education. but,
Right.
This would be one that, we can work on figuring out how to pay for that.
Okay, 'cause that's a thing.
Not
too.
not saying the village is gonna pay for every
Right.
trip downtown, but in Grand Rapids, but.
Would be great.
Yeah, not those trips out to the bars and the gigs. But for dinners, yes.
Dinner's registration, stuff like that, we can talk.
Yeah, I would like to see some
Um,
other, other people on the council interested. I'm already the SEMCOG representative with Brian, so I'd like to see other people have opportunities to represent our community out there if they're interested.
And convention does fall during the week, September 22nd to 24th. It's a Wednesday to Friday.
So you're interested, Kate?
You'll be back in time for September 1st.
I am interested.
Pat, are you interested in one?
I think Melanie and.
Hold on, are you interested, is the question. Are you interested?
I will see what.
You will what?
The alternate.
What is it when we withdraw from the union?
Secede.
Got to be successful. Yeah. Oh, I think that's fine. Would you okay?
But, you're not interested? Keith?
No.
Okay. And,
Okay, I would do, I don't want to be the first person.
It's okay with the first.
I would be an alternate.
The alternate.
Yes.
But you could still attend the conference.
I will make a decision after I see the agenda, because if I don't think it's worth the money, I don't want to blow it
I
on
had
it.
seen some topics and I was trying to remember where.
I saw on the flyer there were 4, and there was one that really interested me. So it's got to be, there's got to be some more meat and potatoes before I can.
There should be
Tonight, just at our delegate.
So what we're doing is looking for a motion.
Okay, I will make a motion for the resolution of the Village of Ortonville Council to designate Kay Green for the MML League 2021 delegate, and Melanie Nivell as the alternate. Am I allowed to make the motion?
Yes.
Why
If
not?
I'm on it?
You need that every two separate.
Okay.
And do we have support?
Support?
Any questions, comments, or discussion on the appointment of Kate Green and Melanie Nivell for the MML representatives? All right, Joe, please.
George,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Nivell,
Yes.
Zilas,
Yes.
Price.
Yes. That motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much. Congratulations, ladies. Next up is the village office hours, and I will send it over to Manager Mattis to come give us a calendar.
If you got the email today from the Personnel Committee meeting minutes, that reflects the conversation we had around village office hours. Staff has noted how slow Fridays are in the office. There's very few phone calls and visitors. It's a great day to catch up on other assignments, but Fridays are otherwise a very unproductive day in the office. We recognize that sometimes unavoidable things happen on Fridays, or there's events or things like that, but those are more the exception than the rule. Closing the office on Fridays would require some changes to the weekly and bi-weekly schedules of our staff and routines. Currently, the clerk and treasurer rotate, working a full Friday every other week. So there would need to be adjustment to their work weeks during, both weeks of a pay period, if we were to close the office on Friday. Further, if we were to close the office on Friday, it would give a lot more time of staff all being in the office at the same time. There would be some other needs like addressing the key policy, encouraging people to use the Dropbox, things like that, for office for anything in the office on a Friday. Benefits of a 4-day work week have been explored by other nearby municipalities, and many have moved to a work week without scheduled Friday hours. The DDA will continue to determine the best use of their work week for their purposes, and DPW would continue to operate without change. Approving this change now allows staff to adjust prior to the proposed date of the change. So I recommend that the council make a motion to change the village office scheduled hours to 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Thursday, beginning the week of August 2nd, 2021.
Thank you. Anybody interested in a motion we can discuss?
I would make a motion for discussion purposes to get it rolling to at least,
Yes.
put the motion out there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that
Do we have
would be
support?
4-day work week
All right, support?
for our things.
All right. Motion on the table by trustee George, supported by trustee Nivell, to alter the village office hours. Questions, comments, discussion?
Okay, I can comment on that. I know it's not unusual. I know Melanie, it seems like way back when we were working on trash hauling and I was calling other communities. Friday wasn't a good day to make calls. So I know why the community shut down on Friday. And then my next thing would be, Beth, are you okay with that? I'm going to the 4-day week?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. No, everyone would want a 4-day week.
That'd be some long hours.
I think you're quite percent together. Okay, just want to make sure, okay.
Brian, is that okay for you?
No.
Nobody asked you to do that.
Well, he presented it, so I assume he already agreed to it.
So the
Keith,
only
please.
concern,
Raise his hand if
Oh,
it's soon that it
go ahead, I'm sorry.
So how would this exactly affect the 3 office personnel? I'm just curious if there was a plan thought, would Jenna work every day, 9 to 5, or what that would be, is my first question. My second question is, how do we do lunches? Because different companies do salary personnel different ways, like a paid lunch or non-paid lunch. How do we do that here? I tried to look right quick and I didn't see it called out anywhere.
Add it to the personnel policy.
That's right, that thing you're gonna send in,
Because,
with your remarks on pay.
That doesn't answer my question.
so we've talked about it a little bit, just kind of preliminarily of, it would mean that, Jenna stays a little bit later. Normally she's there 9 to 3 right now, and Beth comes in at 1 and keeps the office open until 5. So Beth would come in a little earlier, Jenna would stay a little later. There'd be a lot more overlap in the middle. Would be beneficial, which could provide for something like lunch, because we don't currently have any kind of lunch plan. It's usually, we'll sneak to the back and grab our lunch and take the portable phone when you go,
And
because.
take 2
that's one
bites and
thing-
go answer the door, take 2
Yeah.
bites and go answer the door.
So if we,
So my second question, how do we do lunches for salary employees?
we
Just out of
don't,
curiosity.
we don't.
So how does this 9 to 5 affect you then? So 9 to 5, is that 32 hours for you, or is that only 30 hours, or how does that? Just out of curiosity, I'm sure you work lots of hours anyways to more than make up to the 40 hours. I'm just,
Yeah, I would probably, there'd be Fridays where I don't turn the front light on and I leave the door closed and I'm in my office. Most weekends I take a file home and read about a topic like the master plan or capital improvement plans or things like that.
I'm sure there's lots of things you can do, work
Yeah.
from home kind of thing. I'm not necessarily opposed to that.
Yeah.
I'm just curious what this would look like.
Well, don't forget all of the meetings we have that he's
Evenings,
required of him,
yeah.
mornings and evenings.
Again, like I said, I'm sure there's more than 20 hours
Yeah.
anyways.
I mean, we know it's a 40 to 50 hour job minimum, so if we can get him to 40, I think we would finally be able to respect his space.
Then we
Get
can
it
call
done.
for our committee meetings on Fridays with Brian and the office. And not get interrupted by public.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
fun.
I just know that Ryan produces more output of the paper in one month than I would in a whole year. I'm looking at this packet.
I don't know if I can
That's a
call
lot
it or
of,
not.
that's a lot of,
Yeah.
right?
And the last 3 managers we've hired, we have specifically stated hiring them in as a 5-day work week, looking at a 4-day work week, and nobody's ever got to that point because I don't think we've seen
Well, Ryan didn't waste any
the
time, did he?
success to get to that point. We are the ones forcing this on Ryan because we keep saying, this is something we keep entertaining and trying to look at it. Can we get to this point that we deserve it? That we've earned it to not be open on Fridays, and I think it would be a huge savings for us in the way of productivity, but expenses. Not having everything open and not paying, not cleaning, and all of those items are gonna really add up quickly. Mary definitely can, again, spread her time out. She won't lose any hours either. She does amazing extras when people aren't around, so that does still give her the option to come in Fridays or just, add more hours on during the week too. So it doesn't penalize anybody at all.
And I think Ryan raised a very good point. Having the more overlapping time for the village staff does allow for greater synergies and collaboration.
Like if somebody wanted to go out for lunch, too.
The only concern I have, because I think this is a great idea, when we get our packets from the because I usually get mine on Thursdays when I can pick it up. And if they're off on Friday and our meeting's on Monday, when do we get those questions answered? So, possibly, can we get the packets maybe on the day before we get them?
Well, keep in mind,
I don't know.
we used to get our
All I'm
packets on
saying is
Friday.
we have that Friday, to get,
Right.
to get our questions answered.
But we used to get our packets on Friday and our meeting is on Monday. Now we get our packets on Wednesday and our meeting's on Monday.
Mhm.
So you can go anytime Thursday, all day Thursday, and you don't have to go in. You can email or you can call, and Ryan's
Oh, I know,
available
yeah.
all day Friday to do those
I was just
things.
bringing up the
I
only
wasn't
day
sure I
Friday.
had either last time. I think
It's a fair point. One of the things is people rent Old Town Hall for the weekend. So that's one of the things we take a look at is, Thursday at noon, we make sure we call people that, did you get your key yet for Saturday? Because we're closing at 5 on Thursday. So make sure you come and get it soon. And, packets could be a thing that's included in those phone calls of, hey, come get it by 5 today.
But we have that flexibility. Last Saturday, somebody called and I ran the key up. Monday, when the office was closed, I ran the key up. Not a big deal. That's what we're here for, is to all, back each other up.
Like this week I forgot to do it because I was swamped. And I came in on Friday.
But I would assume generally they have those reminders on Thursday to get us in order. Hey, don't forget to pick it up, or, maybe dropping it off the first week to train us. But there's lots of different things we can do just to get by.
Yeah, I have a question as a thought. The township houses are still open on Fridays, right?
Brandon's.
Yes, so we could, for something like picking up a key or something like that, we could have talked to them and see whether we could have on a Friday, if somebody couldn't pick up the key before Friday, if they could pick it up in the township house.
Well, they have all week to pick it up, and if they can't pick it up by Friday, I can meet them here when it's time for them to check in.
Okay.
That's not a big deal, but,
I'm just
But,
wondering if there's an option to cater to.
because your Saturday people don't even remember to pick it up half the time Friday, so, one day
I'm
earlier.
just
is
wondering
closer.
if that would be an option as another thing. to
All right.
consider.
They do have some
to
drop
drop
outs.
workers, it works because it's.
Well, we also talked about a lockbox
Led
on
to the
there,
door.
with a lockbox with the key number on it,
Yeah.
it's with the same key sits
Take
there,
it,
not
duct
wasting your
tape,
time.
tape it to the underside of that lockbox.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think
All right, we
there's
got a motion.
flexibility.
And then we approve,
Wait,
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we're good.
Do you have a
Let's do
motion?
this.
Pat made the motion, Melanie did second.
Do we have any other questions, comments, or discussion, or are we set for a vote on this? Anyone? All right, Jenna, please.
Green.
Yes.
Eden.
Yes.
Nigel.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
George.
Yes.
Bryce.
Yes, thank you. That motion carries 6-0, and Ryan, can you remind us of the date of that change for the
August
policy?
2nd, so the
Second.
first week in August is when, the Fridays, I think the 5th or 6th, the 2nd's the Monday. So in the meantime, we'll talk about what that looks like in overlapping responsibilities and all that good stuff. So
Will
we've
you
got
put
our
something in the
plan.
paper then, just about office hours or post
Yeah.
on social media? And
Yeah,
We
will
did discuss it, but that also gives us time to
Oh,
notify
sure.
the records.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you, we appreciate that. All right, next up is the Mill Street Engineering, and I will also pass that over to Manager Mattis, please.
Okay, so in your packet, you'll find the memo that I'm gonna read. Supervisor Huxwell and I met with Kci Engineering on June 29th to discuss and review needs for Mill Street. So east of Church Street, going up the hill to the township line. Prior engineering has already taken place on a portion of the area of Mill Street, but we need to get further topographic surveys, and we need to do a little bit more engineering to get the full story of that area, looking at drainage, looking at the surface, which has been patched countless times. So further engineering and topographic surveying is necessary to address each element of the project, as described there. It'll take a little bit of field work, a little bit of time drawing the maps as well. The total overall cost is not to exceed $4,800. So I recommend that the council make a motion to approve that Keith Engineering be engaged to complete engineering and construction plans for the Mill Street project for an amount not to exceed $4,800.
I make a motion that council, that we
Oh.
approve Keith Engineering.
That way we
I second the motion.
we
right?
can chat it.
I support the motion.
Yeah. No, you were right, go ahead.
We have a motion on the table by trustee Green, supported by trustee Dialis. Can we have
You
some
stole
questions?
my thunder, Kay.
Any questions, comments, or discussion? Keith,
Yeah.
I'm sure you have something for us there.
So,
That little arm.
my biggest concern is recently with the rain and stuff, I've been keeping an eye on the road, and where you keep getting water coming out of the middle of the road. It's not coming from the side of the road, it's coming from the middle of the road. Back to the conversation we've had previously, I want to make sure you find out what Keith is going to do, because I know we talked about just milling the top off and hoping for the best, and that section of Mill Street from the top of the hill to the bottom of the hill, I don't think we can do that. We have to do something, we have to remove the road and do something underneath to drain the water properly, so we're not going to keep destroying the road in that section.
That's what the topo survey is gonna get into that sum, and then there's quite a bit of wedging that hasn't happened. So normally the middle is the high point. The edges have worn away to the point that the middle is not the the middle is not the high point anymore. And so the road is,
But the problem is,
pools in funny
we have water
places.
coming up through the road, and it's not coming from the side of the road. You can see along the sides is dry, but the middle of the road is wet.
And I remember Bob said when that was engineered, there is no base under there at all.
Correct.
So because there wasn't a base, it sunk automatically, and therefore, like you said, now it's coming straight through.
Sure.
So when the base
Yes.
is corrected, then the
It's-
engineering of
Yeah, so part of the conversation is curbing so that water flows off the road correctly, raising the base and raising the crown of the road to a higher point so that water actually
Raising the
flows.
base.
The base as well.
Okay.
Yes.
There was no
Yes.
base. Yeah.
No,
Yes,
base.
it's,
Because last time we talked, we were hoping to just mill the top off, and
Right.
I realized over the last 2 weeks that that's not an option.
right, there's, underneath is, it's interesting, there's lots of streams that flow through the village, and there's water that flows
I'm sure.
through and
Keeping wells in our community too.
Yes.
So water just bubbles up out of the ground.
And if you look at the rust in the catch basin over there, it's obvious that's coming from underneath. Yeah.
What was the last, they came out, they surveyed this within the year. What was that for?
Yeah.
What did that
They
produce?
just were looking at doing the intersection of Mill Street and Village Court to address that intersection, which is also very piecemeal, but realize it's a bigger problem. And it basically going, if you read the kind of blue part on there, it's
Yeah.
going back to the village limit to the east on what's there, it's Hummer Lake Road. The crown of that hill is actually in the township. So as it rains, that water collects gravel and dirt and brings it into the village. Yep, so to address it there and to improve it, the asphalt starts right at the village line. So preserve the road there, address water flowing off the road before it comes all the way down the hill, curbing to catch it and put culverts
All
or,
right,
you know,
so they only looked right there at that point.
just that little bit. That was the goal, was to just.
And then I know the discussion was of the edging further down, but nothing could be done because the base wasn't raised. So they were
Yes.
trying to Band-Aid everything and fix one spot, and then it was way
Yes.
too.
And then-
It's been a problem for years because we did this when I was on council before. We did what we thought would take care of it and did not take care of it at all. So
Yeah.
my question is, and I know it needs to be done, so You said, Mike, but do we have it budgeted this year?
We have a Mill Street
Yeah.
project in the budget,
Okay.
yes.
Perfect.
And part of the topographic survey is gonna be addressing drainage to the north and the south of Mill Street.
Okay.
There's the creek that runs to the south and then hooks west, to just over here. And there's drainage over here that basically starts at East Ridge and flows north-south parallel to Church Street. So addressing drainage in there if needed. So the topo survey is gonna go a little further than the road,
Okay.
to see what we can do to address water in there. And vegetation it's very overgrown in there, so,
So behind Wayne's, like that
Yeah.
section right there?
yes.
Okay, because that's an issue there
Right.
for
Which
those
is
people.
where the hopes
Okay.
to dredge that in.
Yes.
that all
Okay.
And to
Nice.
look at, so the topo will get a better picture of that, and if we can dig that out a little more so the water actually flows away from the road, or
Yeah.
what that looks like, if it's culverts, who knows, but.
And we all know that until we got the water under control halfway up Mill Street, we finally do now, we can start to fix
Right.
things
Yes.
that we've destroyed.
Yeah, yeah.
Not
Okay,
me,
good,
the
well,
water.
this is good, this is a good direction.
And I don't know if you remember real quick when Bob was grading the streets, that was the number one, that is the first street we have to focus on. Even though we know we all have 100 other, that is the number one worst, and Bob wants to do absolutely nothing else till that's done. So even though we all know every street needs it, that's why our focus is there.
One last point, Ryan, just to make sure we're on the same page, I guess, and I don't know at what point we would get this information, but before we would move forward with the project, I guess I'd like to see what Keith, well, how Keith recommends draining the water underneath the road on the hill, because just adding sand and increasing the base will not solve the problem. So how will we address the water issue that comes up underneath the road? I guess very specifically.
So like artesian pressure pushing the water up through the road?
For sure, that's what I think is happening, yes. So whether it be big stone, whether it be drain tile, we need to do something to drain the water underneath the road down to the bottom of the creek.
That's what was done previously, as I understand it. I
Yeah.
think that's what
I
Bob.
think they were partially successful previously.
Yeah, but he just did it on
But
the
it's-
side.
Yeah,
He didn't do it underneath the road.
right.
Right.
Keep in mind, a change of engineering will give us a better view on things.
And being you're on streets, so you're already involved in all that to begin with.
Understood, but he's having conversations weekly with these guys.
Yeah.
And I'm talking
That's
to
what this one
him.
goes.
Gotcha.
So while we're
No
here.
offense,
Okay.
but
And we all know they did an amazing job in Crosman, so I'm excited to see what they can come up with for the water over there. They're gonna hide from us next time we call.
their engineer is very friendly, he's very good, he understands our needs and our limitations too of what is realistic for us.
Isn't that ever then, on the truth?
No.
Oh, you're gonna have fun.
Okay.
All right, do we have any other questions? Are we good? What do we need?
We're ready for a meeting, all right?
All right. We have a motion on the table by trustee Green, supported by trustee Dylas. And Jenna, if you could please give us a roll call.
Hayden,
Yes.
Nigel,
Yes.
Silas,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Bryce.
Yes. That motion carries 6-0. And next up is the manager's report. And if you don't mind, Janice sharing the highlights with us this evening.
Yep, I'm going for highlights because the home run derby started 45 minutes ago. So, just an update to the local road improvement program. That's the crack seal grant. Jen did a fantastic job of getting all the boxes checked for us and getting that approved. So we have been approved for that. We've got the contract with the county. The next one, any questions on that? Sorry. Okay. The next one requires a little explanation, the bridge update. I had a conversation with Roe last week, 2 weeks ago, they all run together, about the condition of our 3 bridges within the village. So Mill Street, Ball Street, and South Street. Each bridge will be inspected in September. It happens in odd number of years and has for a long time. Roe Engineering completes these inspections and they'll continue to do so. However, in 2022, each bridge is due for maintenance projects. So Ball Street was just completed in, I want to say 2012. It's the newest bridge. It will only need to be closed for up to a week. It's a pretty quick process on that one. Mill Street will need to be there, that bridge will need to be worked on for up to a week. However, both of those bridges have the option of being only partially closed, so we might be able to do one lane there, a flag and all that stuff. South Street Bridge, however, requires the most extensive work, and because of its construction, the way it's made, it will have to be closed completely for 4 to 6 weeks. And because it is near the school, that means work can't start until school is out, and it's near fireworks and things like that. So it's one that the Streets Committee will be working on, working through planning that process. Because it's preventative, it's a preventative maintenance project. We have some control over when that happens, and we can work with Row and work with MDOT to say, you can't start Mill Street until Ball Street's completed because that's the detour route or whatever that is. With other projects going on, we can do coordination. So when we're working on phase 2 of Crossman Park down Mill Street, we can say that's going to happen first and then do the bridge, or vice versa, or anything like that. South Street, it will take some time. That I know that's a bear, but we'll work with the fire department. We'll work through that process to make that as painless as possible. But 4 to 6 weeks post is a chunk of time. So, but the good news is this grant is one that we have in our budget for the coming year. We received an MDOT grant that MDOT actually pays for 95% of the work, of the labor cost. We pay for the engineering and all that stuff, as well as 5% of the actual maintenance work. But it's a very competitive grant. Municipality level over Michigan applied for it, and we got it.
Yep.
So looking forward to lots of bridge work in 2022. Questions on that?
I do have a question. Why do we have 2 engineering firms all over this 1 square mile? We have 2 of them right now, and I realize we have some things going on with the others, but why? I don't know why we left the others and now we're with Keith and Rowe.
We're happy with our new one, but we have to finish up and wrap up what we had with the old, which the grant was applied for with them. So we're happy with the services we received, but Crosman was very well requested with Keith from Bob specifically with the drainage issues versus just engineering in general. And as you know, they've been wonderful for us, so we continue to like them. Let's not vote.
All right, moving on. You'll find the attorney invoice in your packet. Any questions there?
I was curious about the correspondence with Brian regarding the complaint about circus and dangerous animals.
Yes, I received an email about the circus and followed up with our attorney about it before responding.
Okay.
He's very helpful.
And is there a good resolution to that?
Ongoing.
According to his opinion, right?
Yeah,
That just seemed unusual.
definitely.
They do every year, same email that we receive each year.
Not
When
for
the
us.
circus is here, each year the circus is here, we do receive the email from them.
Okay, why do we have to spend more money then? It should be the same answer year after year after year after year.
I couldn't find an answer.
No guy.
And I just wanted to be sure before I put my foot in my mouth.
Well, no, because
The
they
guy on the
addressed
block.
the school and then demanded a request from us because the school did not give them the answer they were looking for. So they specifically came to us with an answer that obviously you have to make sure you answer correctly.
Okay. That makes sense.
So instead of just giving us, their, hey, this is our opinion on it, they said, this is what we're asking of you. So I'm very appreciative that Ryan made sure first.
And now that we have it on record, we can use that.
Use it year
Exactly,
after year after
yeah.
year.
You didn't hear about it in the paper, so it was worth the money.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. And a good thing to do is if you have questions on those things, to call the office or email before the
I'm
meeting.
happy to discuss those if needed.
Yeah.
Okay?
I didn't have time to do that.
No, yeah,
Prices are good.
yes. Next up is the Oakland County Local Business Connect flyer. In this very room on July 21st in the morning, Oakland County has asked us to host a Local Business Connect workshop with presenters from Oakland County, as well as the DDA and You are more than welcome to attend. You can find more information here. It's free to attend. It's aimed towards local business owners, but it's a great way to just see what's going on in the village. Part of the scheduled time is to encourage attendees who will be from all over the county to visit local businesses and walk around downtown. So it'll be a great day, even if you can't attend and you're out for a walk that day, to catch somebody and tell them how great Ortonville is.
Okay, well, I'll be happy to do that, no.
Do you have any new Ortonville shirts yet?
No.
Especially for such a big event.
So the DDA is actually spearheading it. It's kind of their baby. I know Matt's got some great DDA shirts, so I'm always jealous.
Hey, we like some.
That new logo?
Down with our logo.
Why isn't that done yet?
Put it on my list.
Do you think that's something that might be done by Septemberfest, so we can all get a t-shirt or whatever it is, something, I'd like something a little more than.
Coffee cup?
Something nicer.
You mean for Ryan, for a uniform, or are you talking about for us? I'm confused. You said you were talking about t-shirt.
Two different
Yeah,
things.
for the village, I mean, it's,
Yeah, that is a whole thing that the wearables and stuff can go through Paramount and stuff. Yeah, that's a whole big topic.
I think once we get our
Let's
style
look
guide, we
at
can go back to
Oh, I
it.
keep reading.
But
That's what we
Definitely,
done and delivered this
very
week.
soon, so that's a good conversation
That's
for us.
good.
All right, so where we at?
Next up and last up is Restaurant Relief Grant Award letters. Just today, our village clerk has completed the Restaurant Relief Grant final report, right, Jenna? Final report? Or just phase 2 report? I think phase 2, yeah. So phase 1 was back in June, and then phase 2 was about the last time they send out funds. Executive Director Jenkins has been working, he's done a fantastic job with the Restaurant Relief Grant. He spoke with Oakland County about how to use that, and so we are able to use, so checks have been delivered to the 2 businesses who applied for phase 2 grant money, and then there's some money left over which Oakland County has said we can use for storage. So storage of the equipment that we've gotten through the grant, that's very helpful. And we could use more storage for DDA items as well as in the storage unit that is rented.
So will that take away that storage unit possibly?
That's the goal,
Okay,
that's the hope.
Okay.
So there was a quote that was done a couple of years ago for what that might look like. We need to review it because all construction costs have changed dramatically. But to see how far we can take what's left of that grant money towards storage near the DPW garage over on Cedar.
And we can take the money we're currently spending on storage and apply that towards.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Yep, there'll be more on that in the future as we pursue that one, but we're gonna make that happen.
Anything else you have for us?
That is all.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Good job,
Thank you.
Ryan. Nice report.
Yeah, thank
Next
you.
up is item 13, and that is our public comments. At this time, it will be on non-agenda items only. If you have a comment on non-agenda items only, please let us know. Step forward, questions, comments? I already did. All right. Item 14 will be our items from trustees, any additional items that you have to share with us, and we'll go in reverse alphabetical order. Tony did not have anything this evening, so we'll move on to Melanie, please.
Okay. Thank you for bringing in Mr. Colbert, reaching out to him. That's awesome that we're finally getting on board and involved. So thank you for doing that. And there was some type, I saw before I came, a water survey through some kind. Are you doing that, Larry? Or have you seen it? It came out this
I've seen the
afternoon.
notices, I haven't gone to do that.
Okay, it's some type of survey they're looking for from communities to help them with their water infrastructure, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's something where one person responds or whether all of us can respond.
I didn't look at it, I just knew it came out today is when I saw it, and I just wanted to make sure that somebody is responding. That's it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.
And that'll be right, please.
market survey. I did have some feedback from some people that said that they were a little disappointed in the lack of options for plants and things for the garden, because it seemed like the only options were like grass or flowers. And there was a lot of other things on the list, but it was mostly things. And so I think that there was some feedback that I've heard that it would have been better to have some more choices regarding, what type of plantings. Like, I know I put on there other, and I said some kind of ornamental shrubs or trees and stuff like that.
And that's why other was there for people to.
Yeah, but it would have been nice because that was originally as a natural habitat area. It would have been nice to see a little more choices for types of foliage and things like that instead of just flowers or grass. So that was just some.
I think there's so many choices that would be difficult to hit every single thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. but
Melanie, is that
looking at-
something you
there
would
was
like
only-
them to email the committee if that was a feedback or something like that? Would be appropriate for Larry to email and say, hey, this was my thought?
Heck, yeah,
Well, I just thought I'd share it
Yeah,
correctly.
yeah. for sure.
And then another thing I do want to remind everybody, besides movie night, which Tony came from Tony, there's also going to be another event from DDA on June 22nd, the barbecue takeover food truck rally.
That's going to be good.
And that's going to be on June 22nd, which is a Thursday. I believe it's, July 22nd, from 4 to 9 p.m., if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And I encourage everybody to support that, come out and participate. It should be a really fun event. The last one was really good, and I hope this one is even better. Other than that, I think, I can say this, is 4th of July was a really good, successful event. I was there supporting it, and certainly there was a lot of people that are a little bit down in crowds. I'm hoping next year will be even better, but that was a really good event. I was really glad to see that happen in the community. And I always got to give a plug for CERT. I was there on CERT, and I always encourage everybody, if you know somebody who's looking to volunteer, CERT is a great way to give back in our community, and just contact the CERT team or the fire department. That's it.
Thank you. Okay.
As we were talking tonight, it occurred to me, so I'm gonna send it in, but I'm gonna put it out there too, to the personnel committee. I believe we did a disservice with Beth on not giving her whatever the raise was that we gave other people, and I would like to have the personnel committee look at that again and see if there's some way we can compensate her if we feel that that's warranted.
Well, we also have other employees, don't forget, that to consider, if we're going to consider additional employees, we can.
And
Also, the two teachers
certainly include them too, but, because I do see what she's saying, that would look like a slight, a big slight. So I'd like to make that up if we could, to, we want our employees happy, and that would make me happy, and that would make you happy. So, please.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, please.
Just to echo what Melanie said about the sewer situation, I again want to just thank Brian for getting on this and getting Brian to come in and do another presentation. And that's huge. That's huge. We've been around for a long time, so just real happy.
It's 1955.
Oh, God.
Oh, was it? I thought it was 58.
I was later than that. I came up there maybe before.
I was here then.
Ortonville Lake, and I was told, the septic were back then, don't worry about sewers that come in.
Wait till he says she was doing it.
But anyway, it's very exciting to at least have that on the table now on the sewers. It's okay, that's it for me.
Thank you.
I got a few things. Number one, I think Ryan's doing a fantastic job with his manager's reports and the amount of information that he's bringing to the meetings. I think is fantastic and doing a great job. Shout out. Number two, Ryan, we had talked previously about looking into revisiting the, for lack of a better term, access trail from our property, and I forget the name, is it Narren? No. Is it Narren?
Yes.
Yeah, our property on Narren to go for access to BTs. So did you ever make any progress with any more looking into that?
In a few different ways. It's part of the master plan conversation, as well as planning commission is looking at some trail-related items. So we
For that.
specifically know. But, yeah,
Okay.
coming at it a few different ways.
And the last little item, I'd like to make a motion that starting in August, we go back to one meeting a month.
Are you ready for the 4 hours
No,
per meeting?
no,
Okay, well,
no, it's 9 o'clock.
yeah, but we had 2 meetings this month.
Yeah.
The other one was 2 hours.
I made a motion. Anybody support?
No, I get it, Keith, I do.
I just don't know if we're ready. Are we ready?
Yeah. No, I think in time, I think that might be a little early.
We only go through
Well,
August.
I would think sooner rather than later, Keith.
All right, we have motion on the table by trustee Dylas, supported by trustee Hayden. Any other comments, input besides what we just had?
Yeah, I would like to say that I think that since we've been getting more complete packets and we have been able to knock some things off the list, I feel that we are coming to these meetings better prepared and we can address these topics much more readily and come to decisions much quicker than we have been in the past, because we've spent a lot of time in the past debating about, well, what about this piece, well, what about this, and having a lot of questions that we didn't have answers to. Now that we're getting better complete packets, I think that's really helping to have us come to quicker decisions on things. And I would also say that I think Ryan's done a really good job of identifying items that we're not ready to address or that aren't, able to be resolved at a meeting and saying, hey, let's take this agenda topic and put it off until we are ready. And I think by doing that, it's also reducing the amount of time spent in the meeting. So I think that we, because of these improvements I'm seeing, I do feel that it's feasible to go back to the one meeting a month.
Well put, Mr. Hayden.
What's that?
Well put.
Oh, thank you.
Anybody else? I was just gonna say, keep in mind, entities way larger than ours with way larger topics and money, they're all done in a couple hours. That when we had Bill Sprague, he always said, our meetings are no longer than an hour and a half, and the pier is running on a $3 million budget. So we can do it, I know we can. Anybody else?
Did we put a date initially on that? when we
Yes,
had-
August was the last one.
Yeah.
So we go back to
Set
September. Okay.
So in order to change it, we had to change it now. Our last one would be August, we had to change the calendar.
I'm good with going through August, but that's just me personally. And then that way we're not doing 4-hour marathons. I just don't want to go back to that.
I don't either.
But if it was through August, and I'm saying, yeah, I mean, let's one meeting starting in September, but
Right, Keith?
that's just me. I mean, I'll do whatever you guys want to
Yeah, we'll do it.
Basically, so I should basically stay with the 2 per month through the month.
Sure, I'd like to amend my motion to go back to one meeting starting in September.
That's already where it is.
Oh.
We only did 6 months, which is through August. So
All
if, in order to change that, we would have to change it at an August meeting.
All right, so that's gonna happen anyway.
Right,
Yes.
that was the
Okay.
cutoff.
That's fine, that's good.
I wasn't under that.
So are you comfortable with withdrawing?
Are you good with September starting one?
No, I still leave it on.
Okay, all right.
Do you want to leave what you have?
Yep.
Okay. 2, so we would delete the first of the August meeting. Okay, perfect. So, we're all good, right? Ready for a vote? All right, Jenna, please.
Nigel,
No.
Dylas,
Yes.
George,
We're gonna go back to September anyway, too, right? My understanding, I'm sorry, so 1 month.
At this point, no, we can make it, we can change that.
I can wait, so I will say, no.
Green?
We're okay. Let it play out.
Hayden,
Yes.
Bryce,
Yes.
Wow.
We are at a draw.
So Ryan.
That is a 3-3 motion, does not
Ryan.
Keith, you told me to go.
All right, thank you, Keith. Anything else that you had?
So did that pass?
That did not pass.
A tie.
It has to have a majority, so 3-3 fails.
That's what I'm saying, you gotta get Tony here. Better late than
Did you have anything else for us?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. like to send another shout out to the DPW for all the hard work. Obviously downtown looks beautiful. We had a lot of not a lot, we had some negative feedback after the fireworks of people leaving trash and things like that behind. Monday, they were there, it was done, and it looked amazing as usual. Also for their extra hours with Crosman Park in the continual rain and them there
Right.
all the time and working very hard. So we really appreciate it. Again, Bob had to come down Saturday morning, something was quirky with the electrical, which wasn't his fault at all. He came running down, hitched his trailer from home and did it. So
He was
we,
scheduled for vacation on Friday and was
He
here
was.
because.
and we love him and we appreciate it. And the other guys, whenever, yes, we finally get Bob to take 2 seconds off.
And
The
they
other guys
had
are
a day early
amazing.
too because of the situation.
So we really, really appreciate everything the DPW does, and not just Bob, it is all of them, and they're awesome, so I definitely wanted to give that plug. Larry already mentioned the next DA event that's coming up. So I don't think I'm missing anything before our next meeting.
I don't think Pratt's had, they were gonna try a temporary fix at one point, I don't know what came of that.
I think Ryan can update us and send out an email once he's talked to Jim
Okay,
or Jason.
yeah,
All right,
You know, if you don't mind,
I'm sorry.
just kind of meeting up, but,
I was just hoping
I
it was a good
think-
one.
I'm sorry, one last piece of, so what are we doing in phase 2 of that Crosman Park drain?
We haven't got the engineering back from Keith yet. We approved it 2 meetings ago? Not too long ago, so we haven't got it back yet.
Okay.
We have it budgeted for the coming year, so, once we have the engineering, we'd be ready to put it out to bid if we want to try to do it this fall. Could be a spring project.
Sure.
I haven't talked to Bob much about what his preference is.
Okay, that'll be spring.
Yeah,
Okay, thanks.
good question.
good question.
Oh, and then
All right.
the bids for the Sherman, you guys can use Mitten. I will send you that.
So hold on, we're at the trustee updates, we're finished, everybody's done.
Yeah.
We're ready for an adjournment, do we have anybody who'd like to make a motion?
Support.
Thank you, we have a motion on the table by trustee Green, supported by trustee George. Any issues? Jenna, please.
Silas,
Oh, yes.
George,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Nigel,
Yes.
Price.
Yes, that motion carries 6-0. It is 9:08. Thank you for coming, have a great evening.